With all this price gouging we've seen from the last 4 or 5 years, car dealers are finally getting what they deserve. We're seeing sales start to increase. There's a 1.2% month over month increase in days supply. We're up to 96 days supply overall when you blend it average the industry. Now, Stellantis, one of the leading manufacturers that have shown that customers are not ready to pay luxury car money for non-luxury car vehicles. And while they've incentivized a lot of their vehicles and they've really knocked down their days supply drastically from 150, 188 days supply down to vehicles in the range of 110, 120, 130 days supply, the fact remains is Stellantis is still about 15.9% year over year down from 2024 and about 12.8% down quarter over quarter. General Motors is another one. They went from 2019 down from almost 8 million units sold down to under 6 million here in 2024. And of course, naturally, the trend is going to be in consistent direction. Now, while they've had some increasing sales in some of their EV spots and some of their trucks, the fact remains is a lot of their problems, like blown engines, we've seen recalls, the 780,000 L87 engines going up for recall, bad transmissions, lawsuits. General Motors is nothing short than having their hands full of dealing with recalls, catastrophic failures, and warranty claims. Some of these dealers have had some success at the wrap-up of 2024 with a lot of incentives. They've been pushing products and foregoing a lot of profits in the sake of just moving metal. But Ford, unfortunately, is one of those that haven't been able to move as much. Ford's been weighed down by as much as 63% of their current inventory are still 2024 model years. I've got a few general manager friends who have talked to me and said, look, Mark, we're having some struggles right now getting the metal moved. Of course, moving product. Well, a lot of vehicles are thinning out. We're starting to see more of this inventory sort of passing along, and a lot of customers are buying these vehicles. It's not without incentives. And a lot of general managers, depending on the specific brand, are suffering some struggles when it comes time to sell a lot of their products. We know car manufacturers like Nissan have really struggled. Now, they are selling vehicles, but the downside is their profits are minimal because, unfortunately, they're having to use their profits to pay for marketing and as well just to incentivize buyers because of the quality challenges, the CVT transmissions, and some of the other issues, as well as the lackluster product line means not too many people are interested in Nissan. So when you see their numbers down in terms of overall inventory on the lots, that doesn't mean a lot in that case because as an anomaly, we know Nissan is barely hanging on by a thread. They may only have 12 months left. And currently the new CEO at Nissan is now saying, openly admitted, the previous CEO, I don't know, but we are willing to talk to Honda after all. According to Cox Automotive, consumer spending has absolutely been trending upwards. The tail end of 2024 and then of course into 2025, rounding off March's numbers. They're seeing consecutive increases in spending, but let's not forget, this is more just an anomaly. From the way we look at how these numbers are derived, the end of the year before, generally the end of 2024, is a time that we find people stepping into the door of the dealership. There's usually incentives, there's usually a lot of promotions, and a lot of great deals. Great options to get the last model year, to get some extras thrown in. A lot of people are looking at getting last year's, of course, maybe for thousands of dollars, in some cases tens of thousands of dollars off, just because these manufacturers, and specifically the dealers in a lot of cases are more localized, are looking, trying to unload some of their older inventory, getting ready for the next variations to roll in for 2025. Then as we hit the next year, this is the prime time. And while there has been steady increases in growth, not enough to indicate that there's any strength, not enough substantial sales to show that they're a strong indication of success. That's right, a lot of these manufacturers now are finding themselves in a world of hurt because now as of April 1st, we're talking about tariffs. Now, I'm hearing people from all kinds of the corners of the spectrum. From Ford, we know that they pleaded. They said this will literally blow a hole in the industry. Ford is pleading not for these tariffs. General Motors also pleading hold off on the tariffs. Well, the way it hands, they actually had an extra month to sort of debate this. But it doesn't restrict begin and end with the General Motors and Ford. Stellantis, we know some of their products are also built in Canada and Mexico, some of which, of course, we talk about their smaller Compass, their Challengers, Chargers products, and of course their minivans. Mexico, same story. They have other products that are exclusive to the brand, but those are going to be hit very hard. But it doesn't end there. I've heard of even some of the premium exotic car manufacturers. I heard Ferrari. There was people that had ordered allocations for some of their cars, and the cars were on the boat. They were overseas. They were on their way transporting, and a lot of customers are starting to panic. Because now even a lot of the European brands, Germany says, no, we're not playing that way. We're not going to get rooked. So Germany's talking about reciprocating tariffs. We're talking about France. And a lot of these European brands are putting their backs up in anticipation of some of these tariffs that they're about to see from the European manufacturer or the European brands being imported into the United States. This doesn't just impact cars, it also impacts some of the parts that come. Now, the downside is, of course, even a brand like Ferrari, which I had heard, people were panicking. They had these $400,000-$500,000 cars that were in transport with the concern all of a sudden they could be facing a 25% tax increase through tariffs when their vehicle lands. Well, through a roundabout way, the conversation, it sounds like Ferrari has said in some situations, they may give you up to that date and may in fact negate that particular tariff for a period of time. Any more of the premium models, more exclusive, possibly V12 cars, they may in fact still apply whatever tariff will get passed through to the customer. This is going to hurt a lot of these brands. And while it's not just the Ferraris, and it's certainly not the General Motors and Ford and Stellantis, almost every brand is looking at that. We're also hearing Hyundai and Kia looking at setting up shop in North American soil. But till that time, these dealers are struggling because once these tariffs start hitting, once the rubber hits the road, that's exactly what we're going to see. Sales take a nosedive. It's not bad enough that we're seeing Stellantis continually year over year reduction in sales. Toyota also down in sales. A lot of that has to do with the buyer sentiment and the confidence in the brand. There's been tons of recalls, from bad transmissions in the 8-speed in the Tacoma to bad engines in the V6 with the Tundra. There's been no shortage of challenges, and Toyota has been front and center for some significant recalls. Now, another factor we have to consider are tax refunds. You know, in the middle of tax season, this is when people start getting itchy and they want to spend their money, and these OEMs know full well that these customers are going to be looking at trying to capitalize. They're going to be looking at taking that money they get back from the government on their tax refunds, depending on the types of claims that they've had all year and what their tax results are for the year. Many people are actually seeing some increases. That's right, the average number of tax returns that are getting money back is up 1% since 2024. And the amount of money increase from 2024 is up around 6%. So a strong indication that there's more money in customers' hands. But of course, with interest rates being as high as they are, with new car loans being around 9.68% and used car loans being at about 14.72%, there's still a strong sensitivity to the cost of living crisis. I mean, a lot of people are still struggling with the very idea of keeping food in the mouth, roof over the head. No, what they don't need are these constant, ever-increasing price escalations from a lot of these vendors and these manufacturers. And if there's one thing that we've learned in the last 4 years, is that a lot of these brands, and we've seen it, Stellantis being one of the worst for that, with their Jeeps going massively up in price, 6 figures for a lot of their vehicles. We're seeing Wagoneers for well over $120,000, $130,000. We're also seeing Grand Cherokees up touching for 6 figures, of course, being in that $100,000 and above. And even Durangos I've showed you on the car lots up in that $70,000, $80,000 range. So it's a clear indication that Stellantis is still somewhat out of touch with their buyer, their core buyer. The buyer is the middle class that's just looking for an average vehicle with reasonable quality, reasonable reliability. But no, the cost of living crisis is holding people back. And as a result, the index of consumer sentiment has actually been declining over the course of the last few months. 0.1% in January, 1.7% in February, and 1.9% down in March. A lot of customers are just getting shy. Of course, with this instability, volatility in the market, these new products are wonderful, but not at the forsaken cost, of course, increases that a lot of customers are starting to see. But some clearer indication as to what's happening in the market. Sure, while pickup trucks seem to be an ever-growing popularity, whether you're talking about full-size trucks, Tundras, whether you're talking about Ford F-150s, Rams, A lot of inventory out there. Chevy and GM have their product lines as well. Now, of course, also included in this grouping are popular vehicles like the Maverick or some of the other Ford vehicles like the Ford Ranger. Means that a lot of those are actually helping bringing up the numbers, because in reality, a lot of the sales numbers are down even for trucks. But overall, the clear indication sales are dropping year over year. Mid-sized cars are down about 17.4% year over year. Compact SUVs are down about 8.1%. Mid-size SUVs are down about 11.6%. A strong indication some of the most popular segments in the automotive industry are all down on sales year over year from 2024. And this is only going to get worse. This is as of March 2025. And as we roll into the rest of the year, a lot of these manufacturers are going to try to move some of their product, some of their manufacturing facilities out of Canada, some out of Mexico, and replant them on American soil. But none of this happens overnight. And likely all of this comes at a cost, with tariffs one way or the other, reciprocating tariffs without getting charged. Don't want to get into the politics of this. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is what does matter is the cost of living crisis and the fact that these vehicle prices continually climb. Could you imagine adding another 10%, 15, 20, 25% on the tag of any of those popular vehicles you've been looking at today? Well, guess what? As we roll into 25, we're likely to see more and more of that. In this unstable market right now, almost every manufacturer is finding ways to become competitive, try to maintain market share. Many of them are losing it, and many customers are deciding not to buy anything right now and hold off because the cost of living is constantly climbing, and it's making vehicles very unaffordable. So now what we're seeing is the average age of vehicles that were on the road 5 years ago was around 7 to 8 years of age. And now we're seeing that number creep up to 13 to 14 years of age, simply because more people are holding on to their older vehicles a lot longer, putting in those parts. But know this, sadly, even those people that are thrifty and good DIYers are likely going to be lacking some of the benefits of having an older vehicle when even these parts are going to be subjected to some of these tariffs. So it might be, a starter that you bought today for your Ford truck. You might have been able to buy it for $400. You know what? In 6 months, that might cost you $650 or $550. You're probably going to start seeing cost increases even on the parts that you're using in your older vehicles. So while it's always beneficial to fix what you've got, in most cases, if it's a reliable vehicle and it's not totally clapped out, a lot of people are just deciding to fix what they've got. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that's what I'm doing. My '03 Ram, I just keep it trucking. There will be a time where I'll need to buy a new vehicle, and trust me, I'll be shopping and reaping my own rewards. I'll be watching, I'll be looking for deals, and there's certainly places I'll be looking. But now, as we start to see, as we roll into 25, the OEMs are panicking. The dealers are panicking. Because when the OEMs have to pass those losses, the tariffs have to get passed down to these individual dealers. The dealers are ultimately going to see a less and a reduction in foot traffic, and we're seeing that already. I'm hearing from general managers in certain dealerships here locally where some have seen some success, and a lot of that was the end of 25. A lot of them aren't. I've even seen a lot of Corvettes showing up. Corvettes that you couldn't find 2 years ago. Now I've seen in a local dealership with 40 of them on their front lot. So it's a strong indication that popular vehicles aren't necessarily selling either. And even some of the cheaper, more cost-effective vehicles aren't selling. So there was a time when you thought, okay, well, the lowest cost vehicle always wins. That's not always the case. Things have been in the tank for Nissan, for the Versa. Things have been in the tank for the Mitsubishi. And of course, their little putt-putt car is also going on hiatus. Bye-bye. Because a lot of people aren't interested in that either. And we've already showed you the small and medium-sized crossovers and SUVs are drastically down on sales year over year. 10, 15% down. It's an indication that the most popular spaces and segments are not selling. While you've got vehicles like vans, minivans, full-size SUVs might hold their own, largely because tax returns, people with kids often have larger tax returns. They get some of the benefits of the child care, and some of those benefits are going to transfer over, and they need new vehicles. So vehicles often, like the Siennas and the Honda Odysseys, as well as, believe it or not, even yours truly, the Chrysler minivans, some of those are going to hold their own for a while because of the tax season, because of that 6% increase in the average tax return. The point is, a lot of these dealers are panicking. They're not getting the customer base that they enjoyed 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. and now they're reaping what they sowed. It's just what comes around goes around, and this is just the world we're in. So we're about to embark on a serious time, and the changes and the cost of these vehicles. You've always got to shop around. That's the critical message here. You've got to shop around, and this market is not going to be in 2025 like we've ever seen before. And with all of that said, be sure to check out the truck market and as well Ford. What's going on? You're going to love to hear about it. I know you are. As well, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to all real soon. See you on the flip side. Bye-bye.